Welcome to the Ketovangelist Kitchen. I'm Brian.
And I'm Carrie.
And this podcast is dedicated to making things simple and easy for you in the kitchen. Carrie Brown is a classically trained, world-class chef who has a passion for creating ketogenic recipes that taste better than anything you've ever experienced. But more than that, she loves teaching people how to cook the right way.
And each week on this podcast, Brian and I discuss all the ways you can create awesome keto food that is guaranteed to make you a rock star in the kitchen.
If you'd like to learn more about Ketovangelist Kitchen, you can go to KetoVangelistKitchen.com and sign up for the newsletter.
In exchange for your email address, you'll get brand new recipes delivered to your inbox, ready for you to whip up in the kitchen and enjoy with your friends and family.
So sit back, relax, and get ready to laugh and learn. You're about to enter the Ketovangelist Kitchen. And hello again, everybody. This is Brian, and she's Carrie. Say hi, Carrie.
Hi, Carrie.
And well done. And what is the name of this show? What's the name of the show, Carrie?
Ketovangelist Kitchen.
That's right. That's what you is. Don't get burnt.
Yeah, don't burn yourself.
What? You know what I found interesting?
Hey,
what?
Thinking about burning yourself.
Speaking of which,
did you know that I worked at the Golden Arches for 4 years of my life?
Now, was that the British Golden Arches?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I worked at McDonald's for 4 years, so most of that, no, actually all of it was, so Saturdays, that was my Saturday job. 10 to 6 on a Saturday, I would be grilling Big Mac burgers or quarter pounder cheeseburgers or deep frying fries, which is why burning yourself, that's what reminded me, because I used to sport, as a 16-year-old, I used to sport lovely crisscross Microsoft fry basket burns on my arms. I'd just have like all these, where the person cooking the fries would not make sure I was out of the way before they tipped the fries into my little scooping bucket trough. And so I'd have all these fry basket burns on my arms. And so I did that on Saturdays for 4 years. And then I would do full time in the school holidays. So 7 weeks over the summer.
There was a show in the 70s.
A couple of weeks at Easter, I would work there.
There's a show in the 70s and 80s. It was called Kung Fu, starring David Carradine. And in the first episode, and then subsequently every episode after that, in the titles, in the intro of the show, they would show him picking up a large cauldron using just his forearms, and there were two emblems on the side from the heat that would basically burn those images into his forearms, so people would know that he was a kung fu master at that point because he had to carry it across the room. And that's what I'm imagining that you're telling me. Like that, you should use your hands to take the stuff out of the fries, not use your forearms, is kind of my advice. That would be what I would suggest. Am I anywhere close? No?
No.
All right.
No, but it was a good effort. 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. It's a little pitchy, but it was fine.
That is also the reason why I hate dill pickles, because I spent 4 years of my life up to my elbows in freezing cold pickle juice.
What is a menu item that is on the British McDonald's menu that you don't find in the US?
Oh, I don't think there's anything that's that way around. There's plenty of stuff on the US menu that's not on the UK menu, but not the other way around.
Oh, all right. So there's not like Bubbles and Squeak on the McDonald's menu?
No. A lot more variety here. Well, it certainly used to be the way. A lot more variety here. And, things like root beer is illegal in England, so there was no root beer in McDonald's.
Seriously? Why? Right. Why is it? I have to know. Why is it illegal?
Oh, it's whatever our version of the FDA is, there's some regulatory body that decided that root beer was the devil. And so we don't have root beer, or we didn't, because I've been gone a lot of years. So that may have changed now, but no root beer.
Wow.
And I was the only girl that could single-handedly keep up on the quarter-pound grill on a Saturday.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's just because you had like 8 arms. You were like Shiva or whatever in the kitchen.
I weighed about 98 pounds soaking wet, and I could move faster than anybody else.
Nice.
Because there was no weight involved. I kind of, I was kind of like flying.
You were just flitting about, as it were.
Just flitting about.
All
Plus,
right. You were the kitchen fairy. You were like the kitchen fairy.
Was very, very shy. So I just wouldn't talk to anybody else, which meant that I could, just focus on flipping those burgers.
Right. All right. Speaking of focusing on burgers, what are we talking about today?
We're not talking about burgers.
Oh, okay.
We are talking about, and this may or may not become a bit ranty. We're talking about sweeteners.
Artificial or not artificial?
So we can talk about all sorts of sweeteners.
Okay.
But we can get most of them off the list immediately by saying if they're any form of sugar, then we don't eat them. So that's got rid of that lot. But the list of that is like long, like there's, 42 different names for sugar. There's coconut sugar and maple syrup and, right. Just dextrose and maltose and just endless.
My favorite is dehydrated cane extract. That's a name they give.
Right.
So, all right. So anything sugar related, that's right off the bat. That's out.
Right. But that also includes, and this is kind of rant worthy, coconut sugar.
Yes.
It's still sugar. Right. It's not healthy.
Right. Okay.
It's sugar.
That's a fair point. Right. Just because it comes from a coconut doesn't mean it's ketogenic. Right. Doesn't mean it's keto friendly. Nothing like that. It's still sugar. So agave, which came out as like the darling of the this is how to be healthy is to eat agave syrup. Agave syrup is like worse than white table sugar. Agave is just a complete nightmare. Right.
But that has been heavily touted as the healthy alternative to sugar. And then of course honey is another thing that people may think that they can eat, but honey is, processed by the body just the same way as table sugar, so we don't do honey either.
I would like to point out one thing about honey, if I may. It's not just processed by your body. Folks, you got to know what honey is. And here's the thing. Honey is bee vomit. That's what honey is. The way that honey is made is they ingest their little pollen and then they spit out the honey. That's how you get honey. It's bee vomit. Stop eating it. It's gross. Okay.
Oh.
So.
I love honey.
Yeah,
but I don't eat it.
Right. You can love it. You can love it all day long. Just don't eat it. Right.
Exactly. So, what are some of the other ones that the wicked marketing people tout as being healthy, but is actually still sugar? Help me. I haven't eaten any for so long.
Oh, you mean the different marketing things for what sugar is called? Let's see.
Yeah.
So we've got
not good, agave not good, coconut not good.
Right. So you've got
what are the other ones that they focus on?
There'll be molasses, cane sugar, confectioner sugar, date sugar, golden syrup is sometimes they call it. Oh, glucose solids is another one. Carob syrup is another one. Dextrose, that's a big one. We talked about honey. Let's see. Sucrose is another one. They'll just put sucrose because that's what sugar is. It's sucrose. So it's all the same thing. Grape sugar, rice syrup, just the list. Maltodextrin, that's another one. The list just goes on and on and on. Those are all sugars. They're all they got no place for anything that you're doing here. So just avoid them.
And a question I see, and this is kind of a bit of a if it fits your macros, and I know a lot of new people are genuinely confused. So we should help them to understand that it's not just about, because you could eat, a gram of sugar and be well under your 20 grams of carbs allowance a day.
Right.
So,
Right.
but it's not just about that.
Right.
We would say, even if it's within your macro allowance, if it's sugar, we just don't eat it.
Right. I hate the whole if it fits your macros thing. I hate it with the fire of 1,000 suns. It just,
Right.
I cannot express how much I loathe that concept because there's nothing healthy about it.
Right.
And people ask, well, I could eat a Twix bar and I'm still below my carb threshold. Enjoy your diabetes, right? So the point is, it's not just about the number of carbs because the different carb constructs have different biological responses, right? So anything that is straight up sugar, you've got to get rid of it. It has no place. So that's kind of rule number one. That's like meta rule number one.
Yeah.
So what that leaves us with is two kinds of sweeteners. They're either artificial sweeteners or they're natural sweeteners, and they're distinguished. That's the word I was looking for. In a couple of different ways, and the way that I distinguish them is one, an artificial sweetener is sort of grown in a lab. A natural sweetener is the product of a natural product, even if you have to process it a little bit to get it to its final stages. So, for example, aspartame would be something that is an artificial sweetener because it's constructed in a lab. It's not like you start from a plant and then you process the plant and you end up with aspartame. Now, stevia, on the other hand, you start with a plant, you process those leaves, and you end up with powdered or liquid stevia. So the artificial one is constructed completely in the lab. The natural one is processed from a natural starting product. So let's distinguish whether or not you have a different view on that.
No, that's a great definition.
Fantastic.
Well done.
Show done. Over. Right.
Bye.
Always leave them wanting more. Right, on a high note. That's the whole point. Okay, so when we're talking about artificial sweeteners versus natural sweeteners, there's a lot of variables involved as to whether or not something is quote unquote acceptable or allowed or whatever. So when you brought this topic up, I'm assuming that that's one of the things that you wanted to talk about, right?
So actually what I really wanted to focus on more was which of the natural sweeteners should you use.
Okay.
However, I mean, we can talk about sweeteners for the next 10 episodes
right,
and not run out of things to say. So if this becomes part one of a series, that's fine.
Well, no. So here's, and I think you made a great segue there, because what you said was you wanted to talk about which of the natural sweeteners we could use, leaving entirely all of the artificial sweeteners out of it. Now, let me just state this, because there's a lot of controversy on it. I am neither pro artificial sweetener nor anti artificial sweetener, because the truth of the matter is, if I had to choose between sugar or an artificial sweetener, I mean, if I, like, gun to my head, I had to pick one, I'm picking an artificial sweetener, period.
Right.
So I'm not saying one is evil or whatever. No. And there's a lot of people who get really kind of bent out of shape about, show me the science and where artificial sweeteners are really bad. Don't care, right? I just remove them from my menu. So that only leaves me with natural sweeteners. Now, I'm not doing it for any other reason than my own personal thing. I don't see artificial sweeteners occur in nature. This is my own reasoning. I'm not saying this is why you should do it or should not do it. I'm saying this is my own reasoning. When I look around, I see stevia plants. I see hardwoods from which erythritol is derived. I see those things. Those are natural. I do not see in nature aspartame, or the the equal stuff, whatever equals, the name is escaping me.
Blender.
Right. So all of those things,
Sucralose.
Yeah. So I don't see those in nature. What I see is a plant, it's a hardwood. They derive this sweet tasting material from there. I'm okay with that. So that's personally me. I'm not saying there's a legitimate or illegitimate, scientific, non-scientific. I don't care about any of that. I'm agnostic on the whole bit, but I choose what I like. And the two things that I like, because they both fit into the ketogenic diet and lifestyle, but they're also in my categorization of healthy, i.e. natural. All right. So I've done ranted about that. So now you go on.
So I have had enough personal experience of friends with dramatic bad side effects from particularly Splenda, which is sucralose, that I have a more kind of it's just not good for you stance on artificial sweeteners. I've read enough studies and enough stories about people whose health has been dramatically negatively impacted by the use of artificial sweeteners, that the reason I don't use them is because I have a belief that they can, in some people, cause neurological damage and other damage. So that's why I don't eat artificial sweeteners. However, I'm in the same boat as you, Brian, that if the choice, if you have to choose between sugars by any other name or artificial sweeteners, then artificial sweeteners is the way.
And you bring up a really interesting, really important point too. We get caught up a lot of times, and I think it's a fair reason for why, but we get caught up a lot of times into, insulin response. Whenever we're talking about foods that could or could not be controversial, the one thing that everyone seems to like default to is what's the insulin response. And I get that, and I understand that, because a lot of people are keto because they're trying to reverse diabetes, or they're trying to battle weight loss or weight gain, the whole bit. Sure, I get that. But this is the point that you made that I think is really, really important that people need to pay attention to is it is not entirely clear the long-term neurological impact of certain chemical substances, i.e. artificial sweeteners, because the science is not definitive either way. And I would like to err on the side of caution in that regard. So I know that an artificial sweetener could possibly have deleterious neurological effects because there's anecdotal evidence for that. So I would like to avoid that, right? So again, it's not about insulin response, because people are talking about how artificial sweeteners, they don't spike your insulin. That's fine, but they do impact your brain, right? So that's important. So I mean, look at the holistic view is kind of what I'm getting at.
Right.
Wow, this episode got serious. We're talking about artificial sweeteners and stuff, and everything's like we're talking about serious stuff. Holy cow, how does that happen? All right.
Okay, so we're not going to eat sugars, and we're not going to eat artificial sweeteners, which leaves us with natural sweeteners.
Right.
But there's two things that I have felt particularly ranty about this week. Actually, no one. There's one thing I've been feeling very ranty about this week, but generally on Brian's amazing ketogenic success Facebook group, there are constantly questions about which natural sweetener do I use. And so that's why I thought it would be handy if we talked about it a little bit. But I'll get my rant out of the way first.
Rant. Go.
So my rant is that there seems to be kind of two camps. And it seems almost like a kind of a moral superiority going on with if you eat keto treats, you're not doing it right, or you're just a bad person, or and I'm being dramatic, but or people who eat keto treats aren't really keto, and blah, 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 blah. There's I lost 100 pounds and I didn't eat a single keto treat, and which kind of makes it feel like there's something wrong with keto treats.
Right.
And in defense of all the people who enjoy their keto treats, I want to say, don't go there. Don't feel bad.
Don't let them get you down. Bad. Don't let them get you down, right? That's what you're saying?
If you see those posts where you kind of get this sense of judgment or moral superiority about the fact that somebody didn't eat any keto treats, just walk on by. No, stop it. There's a lot of people, I would hazard a guess that it's the majority of people, one of the only things that actually, at least initially, makes it possible for them to go keto and stay on track is the fact that they have a way of making versions of their favorite foods that are keto.
Right.
And I don't want all of those people to feel bad or to feel like they're somehow failing or to feel like they can't do that because some people choose not to do that. That doesn't mean to say that the rest of us are wicked because we do. And I don't want those people to think, oh my goodness, I like keto treats, but I'm not allowed to, so then I can't stick to it. I don't want
Right. So
people.
yeah. So the thing is, again, you bring up some good points. So if the options are not keto at all, or this kind of treat or snack or whatever is allowing me to stay on the keto track, then the treats should be part of your menu.
Absolutely. But there should be no judgment or guilt trips from the people who have chosen not to do that or find it easy not to do that or whatever. There should be no stigma about the fact that you make a cheese biscuit using almond flour.
Right. So just full disclosure, I'm firmly in the camp of no treats, right? Because that's just, I don't like them. And plus they require cooking, and that's just a lot of time. So I'm not in that camp at all. However, like I said, I'm not going to begrudge someone because that's the way they can stay on track. That's not, it's less important for me to lord my methods over someone else than it is for them to be healthy, right? So remember, what you're talking about is what's more important, you being right or them being healthy. The correct answer is them being healthy, right? So
but not only that, but it's that there seems to be this kind of pervasive sense that if you like eating keto treats, then you're somehow have no self-control or you're just feeding your cravings, or you need to stop doing it because you're craving it. I don't eat keto treats because I crave them. I love to cook. I love to bake. It's something I enjoy. I enjoy the taste. That doesn't mean I'm craving it. That doesn't mean I have this huge emotional, mental monster that I need to defeat just because, that's like saying, well, if you really love running, then you've got to stop doing it because clearly you have some emotional hang up which makes you run. Why can't it be that you just enjoy running? I don't. I hate running, but
Well, I've known some runners, and they're all emotional basket cases. Let's just be honest.
But you get my point, right? I mean, it's like anything. If you enjoy doing it, it doesn't mean that you've got some kind of huge gap in your childhood emotions that you're filling it with. You just enjoy it, right?
Right.
I love to cook. I love to bake. I get a huge amount of pleasure out of that. It doesn't mean I need to stop baking because, that would just be crazy, right? Well, and I like sweet things. That doesn't mean I've got this innate monster inside of me that's forcing me to eat sweet things. That's not the case at all. I don't crave it. I enjoy the taste of sweet.
Right, and there's
absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I see on Facebook groups, I just see people who enjoy sweet things being demonized as being out of control and that's something you need to tame and it's bad and you're not doing keto right and da-da-da-da. And I'm like, stop it, people, just stop it.
Right. So I think that's an important point to bring up because Carrie understands herself. Like she knows who she is. She knows what she's good. So, and this ties directly into one of my core philosophies when it comes to getting healthy. And that is you have to be willing to do an assessment of your actual motives, right? So what Carrie's talking about is for her own personal responsibility. She understands herself. She knows why she's doing stuff. Now, if you find yourself in a situation where you are actually not in that boat, you are clinging to the things for an emotional response, and it could easily sling you off the edge into, eating food that is not good for you. You need to take that honest step, that honest assessment, and make some changes to it, right? So there's a line there. It's not like anything goes. You have to be, and it's an ongoing thing. It's an ongoing process in this whole thing. You have to kind of Regularly make self-assessments. I know keto veterans, but folks who've been doing it for 8-10 years who have told me, I had to throw this particular thing out because it was doing some weird stuff to my head. Like it was making me crave things that I've never, that I haven't craved in years.
Right.
So you just have to be willing to make that assessment. Now, does that mean you never eat keto treats or snacks or whatever? No, it just means you need to know what your limitations are. Right.
Right. And so on my notes here, when I was trying to control my rant,
it was a well-controlled rant. It was a well-controlled rant, by the way. It was well done.
Some people do find that they hit a weight loss stall if they eat natural sweeteners. If that's you,
Stop.
Don't eat them.
Yeah.
But if that's not you, then don't be upset by, people being morally superior. If that's not you, then eat them. I can eat ridiculous amounts of xylitol, and it doesn't change anything about how my body operates or my weight or anything. Why should I stop eating it? Right? So if it stalls you and you know that, then it's not good for you. Great. But don't push that onto everybody else. If it doesn't stall you and you like sweets, go for it. If they make you crave, don't eat them. But if they don't make you crave, eat them. I mean, and and to be fair, I have never been obese, so I don't understand what that's like. The most I ever weighed was 168 pounds, which for someone who's 5'5" is, overweight, but it's not, it's nothing terrible. So, and I'm not sure whether I've ever had insulin resistance or not. When I started keto, I was, according to the lovely Ted Naiman, I was pre-diabetic. So I don't, and I've never been I've never been I've never had that huge cravings issue. I've never been driven to overeat through emotional cravings or that kind of thing. There's a lot of us that are in that boat. There's a lot of us that are in the other boat, right? I just wish we would all stop demonizing anybody that isn't like us. If they stall you, don't eat them. If they make you crave, don't eat them. But if that's not you, then enjoy them, especially if it helps you to stay keto, or that's what makes keto more enjoyable for you, or you just enjoy it. Don't cut it out because other people are, throwing moral superiority over the fact that they lost 100 pounds and no treats. There's plenty of people who have lost 100 pounds eating bunches of treats. So,
right
there it is.
Right. So, one of the things I talk about in the Ketogenic Success Facebook group is there's two ways that you can interact with someone when this kind of topic comes up. There's a prescriptive way and there's a descriptive way. And what we would prefer is for interactions to be descriptive. And that is, I tried this, or this worked for me, or this did not work for me. Because all that's doing is sharing your experience. It's allowing people to understand that, different people have different responses. Descriptive is better. And prescriptive, however, is something along the lines of, you have to do it this way. And it's not the case that you have to do it this way. Right? It's rarely going to be a universal. I mean, obviously, keto itself is high fat, low carb, moderate protein. Those things are understood, right? So inside the keto umbrella, I just swapped my ending vowels on both of those words. Keto umbrella. Inside the keto umbrella, that's where there's a lot of freedom and a lot of chance. You can customize and play around and see what works. Like if treats work, great. If treats don't work, great. It doesn't matter what works for someone else. What matters is what works for you. So this is not just Carrie's rant. This is my rant, and this is a lot of our rants because we're tired of people trying to dictate what someone else should do, and that's just inappropriate, right? So having said that, let's talk a little bit about what artificial sweeteners people should, if they can, and are not negatively impacted by them, what artificial sweeteners should they be using?
My final line.
Okay, so we're not done with the rant?
I have one parting shot.
Okay, here we go. I'm writing this down. Here we go.
There is no badge of honor for abstaining from treats.
Badge of honor. Okay. Right. You don't get an award for it, right? I mean, because clearly nobody, like a lot of times people are like, hey, you want a cookie? And they'd be like, no, I don't eat them. Right. Because you wouldn't get anything like that. What kind of award would you give someone who doesn't eat treats? Like you'd have to be like, hey, do you want a steak? Because that's the only thing they're
right. But I mean, it's no different to me saying I lost 100 pounds and I didn't eat one single piece of bacon.
That's crazy talk. That's crazy talk.
Right, but so what? So why do people have the sense that they should get a badge of honor for saying I didn't eat a keto treat? And your point?
Right.
So what? Right?
Right.
So that, there's no badge of honor. The other thing is that I've just remembered is that, people talk about treats and I'm looking at my recipe for cheesy biscuits, which a lot of people consider a keto treat. And I'm looking and I'm going, okay, do you eat almonds? Yes. Do you eat butter? Yes. Do you eat cheddar cheese? Yes. Do you eat coconut milk? Yes. Okay, mix them all together, call them scones, and everyone goes, oh, it's a keto treat. You can't eat it.
Right.
I'm like, wait, what? But what? That makes no sense.
For the record, I would never call it a scone. I just want to say.
Okay, biscuit, whatever.
Okay.
You get my point, right?
Yes,
it's just
yes.
like, hang on a minute. Why does it suddenly become this terrible thing? Because we've mixed things that you all love and eat and abandon. We've mixed them in a bowl, lobbed them in the oven for 10 minutes, and suddenly there's,
you guys can't see
and gnashing of teeth, and it's just like, people, stop it.
You guys don't get the opportunity to see Carrie Brown. Like normally she's not very animated, but right now she is like, she's almost Italian. The amount of hand, like she's talking with her hands. She's like throwing things across the room. Holy crap. I've never seen her this animated before. Wow. This is taking on a whole. She is not British. All of a sudden, she has changed her country of origin. She is now easily Mediterranean. This is clearly. All right. Okay. So let's.
But you got my point, right?
I certainly did. If nothing else, I was watching it, and yes, I didn't even if the sound wasn't on, I would have gotten the point. Okay, so are we done with the rant then? To make sure that everyone understands?
I hope I don't feel impelled to do this same rant again at any other point in our podcasting future. All
right. Yeah, but but the caveat is like it's everyone else's responsibility. Like, don't make me come back there, right? Like, don't make me have to do this again, right?
Just be nice, people. Stop being mean.
Carrie likes it when people are nice. She tells me this all the time.
And at the end of the day, it does not help people to feel guilty when they're making their best effort. It just doesn't. So just stop it.
Okay. I think that's a key point, right? They're doing the best they can. So
they shouldn't be made to feel bad for something that isn't bad.
Right. It may not be the best in the best, in the possible worlds, but it's not a bad choice, right? Like there may be better choices, but they're, it's a lot better than what the other alternatives are. Okay.
Right.
So now are we actually going to get to talk about the actual
Yes.
Okay.
Let's do that.
It would help if we had like a script or some kind of anything
that would be super dull.
Right. So here's how okay, a little inside baseball for people. Here's how we actually put shows together. I text Carrie a few hours before we're supposed to record and say, hey, are you able to record today? And she either says yes or no. Now, if she says yes, I say, what are we talking about? And then she gives me a one-word topic, and that's it. And then we just kind of wing it. Like, I have no idea. Like, even before we start recording the episode, it's just her and I talking about what kind of day we've had. Like, we don't even go over the topics. It's like as soon as I hit record, like, all right, what are we talking about? I have no idea. All right, let's go. So that's how things work. So
And we're still helping people. It's a miracle.
We are very profesh. So, all right, what kind of artificial sweeteners are we allowed then?
So,
I screwed it up. What kind of sweeteners? Because there's no artificial and no sugar, right? So, what kind of sweeteners then? They're all natural.
natural.
Right.
So, my best would be Stevia, Xylitol, erythritol.
Right. So I would say the same, right? So stevia.
Forget the brand names.
Right.
Forget
but hold on. There's one thing. It's one thing that's very important. You don't get off the hook just because something says stevia on it. You still have to look at the ingredients list, because a lot of times what people will do.
I know. Coming to that. Calm down.
Okay. Okay. Oh, you can rant. You can rant, but I don't get to. I am throwing things.
Coming soon.
All right. Go on then. I'm calmed down now.
So, forget all the blends. Forget the Swerve. Forget the Truvia. Forget all that. Main reason to forget all that. There's a few reasons, but main reason is price. Plain erythritol, plain xylitol, half the price or less than half the price of, for example, Swerve. Half the price. Why would you spend more than twice the amount of money on an already expensive product?
I would not.
Buying Swerve or Truvia or any of those blended weird or sucrin or whatever. Why?
That's just crazy.
It is crazy. The other thing, and I believe that the incidence of things like sucrin and Swerve and these brand name Truvia and brand name kind of conglomerates, if you like, these sugar alcohols that are blended, I think that's come about because some of the low carb bloggers are sponsored by the companies.
Really?
And because there's not a huge number of low carb blogs out there, if they use, for example, Swerve, then you're probably going to do that because that's what they recommend, but you're spending more than twice as much money as you need to for no good reason.
Right. So
my point is, and this is absolutely nothing to do with the bloggers or people or anything. This is purely me being economical and trying to save your budget. If there was an intrinsic reason why Swerve was better in terms of taste or performance or nutritional value or anything else, I would absolutely, if there was a benefit, I would absolutely say, if you have the money, go ahead. But there's no value in using these conglomerate blends over using straight erythritol or straight xylitol. There's no benefit to you. So, and I think a lot of people maybe don't even know that plain erythritol and plain xylitol are less than half the price because they've got so used to using the brands that are being promoted by the manufacturers that they're not even aware that the plain regular versions are out there and they're half the price because the recipes they're looking at have these manufacturers' brands in them, so that's what they've tended to use. So my point was, you don't have to. You can save yourself a bunch of money by getting just the plain erythritol. So Now Foods, for example, that the brand is Now Foods. If you go up on Amazon, you can get a 2.5 pound bag of plain erythritol or plain xylitol for less than the price of 1 pound of Swerve.
Right.
And there's no benefit to the Swerve.
Right. And that's important, right? So
and I'm not I have a very holistic view to this. When I develop recipes, I'm not just thinking about it being keto. I'm also thinking about it being easy to use recipe and cutting out steps and cutting out ingredients that don't make a difference. But I also think about availability. Can you people get hold of this stuff easily? Is it going to be difficult for you to find the ingredients? And I also think a lot about cost, because, you know, for some people, keto is or low carb can be more expensive. So I also keep a mind for helping you to do this on a budget. And that's one way where I see where people are spending way more money than they need to, because they're probably not aware of the kind of more generic versions, because they're so used to seeing recipes written that are driven by the manufacturer's brands.
Right. So, and again, that's kind of an important thing, right? There are some things that, when we were talking about chocolate, right, for example, there are some things that, like chocolate, a particular manufacturer will produce a consistent product, and it's kind of important when you're dealing with stuff like that you want that consistency. But when you're talking about straight up just erythritol, or you're talking about xylitol, or you're talking about stevia, pure and plain, the brand name is not necessarily important. Now, you can find all the brand, the brands that you like, and you can be loyal to them and everything. That's fine. But the point is, find the product first. Worry about the brand later, because you might like some better than others, whatever. But the point is to find the thing that you like. Now, we're talking about the blend stuff. There are certain acceptable blends, things that are like erythritol and stevia blended together. Those, that's fine, depending on what you're trying to make. Right.
Right. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't use Swerve. I'm just saying there's no reason to use Swerve, it is 2 to 2.5 times more expensive. So you just might want to consider moving to
shop around. Okay.
That's my only point.
We have to also make one very important point. Now, for those who don't know, Carrie hates dogs. So this is a very important point that it's very true. She has a
I hate puppy tongues.
I don't. That's a completely different meal. Just let me finish my topic. Carrie hates dogs. So she's practically un-American in that regard. So what she's not telling you is that xylitol is deadly to dogs. So,
that is true.
So
all true.
If you have xylitol, now I don't know why you would feed your dogs your artificial your sweeteners. I don't know why you would do that. I would suggest that you do not do that, but do not feed your dog, or do not let your dog get access to xylitol. It will kill them. So just keep that in mind, right? So
and the reason for that is, and I did read about it a while back, and now I can't quite remember. Brian probably can remember the way, but it's just something to do with the fact that they can't digest it or something. It's just that's peculiar to dogs.
Right. It has a lot to do. They don't digest the molecules. It's toxic to them because it's essentially a poison. It doesn't cause an insulin response in a dog. That's not what's doing it. But it doesn't cause an insulin response in us, but it can cause an insulin response, a huge insulin response in dogs. And what'll happen is their blood sugar will just drop because their insulin just shoots through the roof, and dogs aren't used to that sort of thing, and it'll kill them, right? So this it basically makes them hypoglycemic. So you don't want to do that. So,
but you don't have to worry about xylitol for you.
No, xylitol is perfectly okay. In fact, xylitol has an interesting quality about it for your teeth. It actually helps.
I have 3 years of no dental work to prove that is true.
Right, because you brush your teeth with xylitol, right?
No, because I eat xylitol.
Right. So, in fact, if you find gum that is sweet, now you won't find it in most major grocery stores, but if you go to Carrie's favorite place, Trader Joe's, or to Whole Foods, or to other healthier food joints, you'll find certain gums that are sweetened with xylitol, and they are actually touted as helping build back your teeth, because that's what xylitol does. Xylitol does do that.
My dentist was like, what are you doing? Because like I've seen you for 3 years and we've done nothing. Like I'm not making any money here. What's going on?
I want my dentist to be like, whose teeth are in your head? Like they don't even trust they're my teeth anymore, you know?
Right. So I had that experience, and so yeah, and that's absolutely the only thing that was different was that I stopped eating sugar and I started eating xylitol, and all my dental work just literally came to a screeching halt.
Right. So super important. Okay. So okay.
Stop using, unless you have money to burn, and I'm sure you can burn it on things that you would value even more. Consider switching from the expensive brand name blends to generic straight erythritol and straight xylitol. No difference.
Yeah. So the three things that are okay, that are going to be okay no matter what in terms of sweeteners, we got stevia, we've got erythritol, and we've got xylitol. Stevia is a plant, and you can find it in one of two ways. It's either powdered or it's going to be in liquid format. Xylitol and erythritol are pretty much always going to be in a powdered format, and they're what's called a sugar alcohol. And there's a process that's involved. Basically, they're both derived from hardwood. They basically break a hardwood tree down, and they extract the natural sweetener from it through a process. So that's why we're calling them natural, and they're good. No insulin response, and they're good to go.
The other reason why you might want to steer clear of the blends is because as manufacturers kind of get on board with the whole they want alternatives to sugar, the manufacturers are, as usual, getting very tricky and very naughty about hiding things in these no sugar blends. So you do need to
read the labels.
You really do, because for example, and they're very inconsistent, and so it's just easier if you just use stevia, straight erythritol, straight xylitol. You don't have to worry about any of this. But if you're using a blend, you have to read the label. For example, Truvia. If you go to the store and read all the labels of all the different, there's little boxes and big bags and granular and all these different forms of Truvia, but they're all Truvia. If you compare all the labels, different products, and I think it's and I can't remember which one, but I think it's the baking blend Truvia.
Yeah.
Has got like dextrose in it.
Right. It's got sugar. It contains sugar.
Right?
Yeah.
But another of the Truvia things does not. But I think people think, okay, Truvia is good because I read this and so I use this one, so then all Truvia is good. And that's absolutely not the case because, as I say, one particular, I think it's the baking blend Truvia, is actually got a filler in it, right, which is sugar. And so it's just easier. The minefield, you can clear all the mines away by sticking with stevia, straight xylitol, straight erythritol, and steering clear of the expensive blended oligosaccharide, erythritol, stevia, blend things. It's just easier to just use the generic straight stuff.
So I just want to.
No advantage to using the others.
Congratulations or well done on oligosaccharide. That's way to go. Way to go. That's one word I did not think I would hear today. So well done. Okay, so there you go. So now
keep it simple, lovely people.
Now here's a question.
And save a bunch of money.
Here's a question. I need to know. Because we are running short on time. So if this is a question that we have to pick up at another episode, we will do that. But do these things have different qualities? Do erythritol, xylitol, and stevia have different qualities that make one better or preferable for a particular kind of food that you're making over the others?
Absolutely. And I would say, generally speaking, there's a lot of recipes out on the internet and even in cookbooks that say, a cup of sweetener of your choice.
Right.
If you see that, run for the hills, because that indicates to me very clearly that they actually don't know what they're doing.
Okay.
Because particularly xylitol and erythritol are best suited to different things, and I can't possibly go over that in a short amount of time. And a lot of the time, they are simply not interchangeable. So if someone is saying sweetener of your choice, they don't understand the difference between the two, or they haven't trialed them both. Right. They just assume that you can switch out erythritol for xylitol or Swerve or whatever it is, and you're going to get the same result, and that absolutely isn't true.
Okay, so are there some things that you should absolutely...
All sweeteners are not the same.
Right, so are there some things that you absolutely should not use stevia for, or are there some things that you should not use erythritol for that you could think of?
So do not use erythritol in keto cranberry sauce.
Okay. That seems like a very specific thing to not use erythritol in.
I'm still thinking about Turkey Day. What you can, if you eat it all up the same day while it's still warm, you'll probably be okay. But if you don't, and you put it in the fridge the next day, you will find you have cranberry crystals.
Right. Yes, erythritol will crystallize easily, and it doesn't break down as well or as readily as
So
stevia.
If a recipe involves heat and it says sweetener of your choice, run away.
Choose not erythritol. Right.
Run away.
Right. Okay, well there you go. Then all right, so I think we covered a lot of stuff there, because that was a lot of stuff. What's our parting shots on this? Okay, let's recircle back around to the rant. Let's recap that, and then
there's no badge of honor for abstaining in keto treats.
Right, there's no badge of honor. Right, so do what's best for you and let others do what's best for them, and then let's all just enjoy each other and not be weird about it.
You wouldn't try and guilt me for choosing to eat bacon in my quest to lose weight, so don't guilt me for choosing to mix my keto ingredients into a biscuit.
I totally would. I would totally guilt you about bacon. I would. I would. All right, do you have any parting shots or final words aside from quit being weird? Nice. Aside from being nice, right? All right. So the three sweeteners that are okay: xylitol, erythritol, stevia. Use them.
Don't spend your hard-earned money on brand name products that give you no benefit over basic ones.
All right, and there you go. That's where we're going to end the show.